Okay, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. All right, guys, I'm back. It's Tuesday, March 31st, and it is 10:21 p.m. Eastern Time, and I know I'm getting a late start tonight, but, you know, what's new? I've had a hard time getting it together today for some reason. I've been watching the news and looking at the press briefings and so forth, and just getting more and more, I'm not frightened. I'm a little bit depressed at what I see happening because I know that there are so many people out of work and there are so many in desperate situations, and you just feel like you want to help people, but you don't know what to do. And also, I get this overwhelming feeling, and I don't know if you guys are feeling this as well, but I have this feeling we're being lied to about a lot of things. And I don't know, I know the virus is real. I've heard from too many people, and I've heard of friends that have family members or other friends that have it. So I know the virus is real, but there's something else going on just above the surface. And yes, I do believe that the sealed indictments are unsealed and that there are arrests happening. I do believe that very strongly. But I just have this feeling of being uneasy. And don't anybody say, oh, just trust the plan, because really, I don't trust any man. And I mean that as mankind, not men. I'm not bashing men at all. I mean mankind. I don't trust any flesh and blood. We really can't. Now, I believe that Donald Trump is a good man. I believe that he is doing what is best for our country. I believe that he is doing far more than anybody before him has done. But, you know, to just blindly trust, no, that's not me. There's only one man I trust, and they crucified him a long time ago. Of course, he's risen, but that's the only person that I trust because he's God. But aside from that, I just get the feeling that they're not being honest with us. And I understand that there are things they can't be honest with us about, because if they inform us, they're also informing their enemies what they're doing. So I understand that disinfo is necessary and all that. I'm just saying that I really have the feeling that we are being misled. Now, whether it's necessary or not, that will, I guess we'll see in time. But yeah, but tell me how you guys are feeling about this, because I guess, you know, you're hoping it's going to end quickly, but then the more you see, you're thinking, I don't think this is going to end quickly. But I guess we can always hope. Anyway, let's get into this for tonight. I do have 3 people to thank, coffee donors. Annie, she liked her name so well, she used it twice. Annie. And Anon, also Pam, and someone that just goes by the name of Al. Now, Al is Canadian, so, you know, I don't know. I always like it when I see fellow Canadians, because this really isn't a show that I would think would appeal to most Canadians, but apparently there are some that watch it, even though it's mostly US based. But anyway, let's get into the news. And again, this is kind of everything thrown together, but I haven't gone all out on the CV stuff because quite frankly, I'm getting sick of it. And now, you know, if it is something noteworthy and newsworthy, I'm going to tell you, but I just don't want to do a whole program anymore on just virus, because it's overwhelming, and we're hearing so much of that every day anyway, that I think maybe some of us need a break from that, especially me. Anyway, let's get into the news. And now, I loved this because it's this from Alex. Says, this might be the funniest thing you watched today. Sorry this is happening to you, Maddow. I'm not so sorry that it's happening to her, but let's take a listen to this and see. Maybe you've seen this already, but if you haven't, it's worth seeing. So let me make this bigger here. And
the president said when he announced that those ships would be put into action against the COVID-19 epidemic, he said one of those ships would be operational in New York Harbor by next week. That's nonsense. It will not be there next week.
And the naval hospital ship, the USNS Comfort, you see it right there on your screen, has just docked in New York City. The ship will be used to house non-coronavirus patients, and that in itself will free up the city's hospital care to focus primarily on those with the virus. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo will brief media there at the top of the hour. We're going to bring that to you live as soon as that gets underway. NBC's Rahima.
The president said when he announced.
I think that is very funny. Like, the ship won't be there, and then the next thing you see it being announced. And I find that, I don't know, a little bit satisfying, I think, because I'm very tired of these talking heads. I'm so sick of them. And especially now that there is something that we need, they need to be reporting the news without all this bias, just the news. But no, they can't do that. I don't even think they're capable of doing it anymore. I really don't. There just does not seem to be a real journalist. There are a few in the alternative media, but very, very few people doing the work of journalists anymore, and just, finding the news and looking behind it and dissecting it. Nobody's doing that. They just have their talking points. That's all. All right, let's go back now. And let's look at this. Now, this is from Governor Greg Abbott, and unfortunately, this is a little bit old news now, but this is him. He had shut down the, what does it say here? It says, pursuant to his powers as governor of the state of Texas, Greg Abbott has issued the following executive order number GA-12 relating to roadway screening and self-quarantine during the COVID-19 disaster. The original executive order is attached to this letter of transmittal. So he has closed down the state of Texas, and that is probably good, because I think Texas could be another hotspot, but so far they've done pretty good from what I've seen, but I don't know. I don't know anymore about any of this. It seems like we've got a ton of it here, especially in my area, and they've just said that a nursing home in Ontario here in the north has, the virus is going through the nursing home, and it almost makes me wonder if some of this is on purpose, if some of it's being seeded. I don't know. I could be just being whatever, but it just, the things that are going through my mind, it's exhausting actually, because I keep looking at this from every possible angle, and still I don't have a handle on it, because somebody's not telling us the truth. Is this the worst thing that's ever happened in the history of humanity, or is it being wildly blown out of proportion to cover for something else? Or is it a combination of the two? I don't know. I wish I did. But the more I study this and the more I'm looking into this, the more I don't know. It's kind of like going to school. I always thought, well, if I get a degree, I'll know things. But then when I got my first undergrad degree, I went, you know what? I know less than I did when I started. Because the more you learn, the more questions you have. And so I thought, well, I'm going to get another undergrad degree and I'll learn more stuff. And the same thing. After I graduated, I thought, I know less. And then by the time I did my master's degree, when I finished that, I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to go on and get my PhD, because I'm going to feel like I know absolutely nothing. Because I don't know what it is, but the more you're learning things, the more you realize you don't know. And that's the way it is with studying this stuff, because the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know what's going on. So I don't know. And I think they are purposefully trying to confuse us. There's all these shills everywhere. And as soon as you start talking about CV, all these shills are attracted to the channel or whatever. I was getting sick of it. So I don't know. There's so much disinfo out there. It's hard, even for people that are trying to discern what's true and what's not. It's hard. So anyway, let's go back now. Now, yeah, this is interesting as well. This from The Blaze. Top hospital exec fired after saying Trump supporters with COVID-19 should give up ventilators and die. She previously worked for Hillary Clinton, so that should tell you, well, a lot. So, yeah. A top medical executive at a Buffalo hospital was fired this weekend after demanding the supporters of President Donald Trump renounce ventilators if they become critically ill with CV. In a Facebook exchange, Laura Krolczyk, Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center's now former vice president for external affairs, wrote, Trump supporters need to pledge to give up their ventilators for someone else and not go to the hospital. Krolczyk also said Trump supporters should barricade themselves inside churches to ride out the coronavirus. Also, don't cash your stimulus checks. It's all a hoax. Chew some ibuprofen and be on with your day, Krolczyk wrote of Trump supporters. Krolczyk was initially placed on administrative leave, but was later terminated over the comments, according to the Buffalo News. And as well, she should have been. She should have been. That's just nasty to say that about any group of people. Any group of people. Krolczyk was initially, Roswell Park released the following statement announcing Krolczyk's termination. WGRZ TV reported the employee was terminated today, Saturday, after our human resources team concluded its investigation. We followed standard procedure, which required that we gather and verify relevant information before taking any disciplinary action. Dr. Johnson and her team responded with swift and appropriate action. We have always been and continue to be a center serving everyone who needs us. That is core to our mission, our culture, and the experience our patients and family can expect every day. This behavior is not tolerated at Roswell Park. If any team members act in any way that does not accord with that commitment, we will take swift and appropriate action, just as we did in this instance. Krolczyk earned $226,580 in compensation in 2019, the Buffalo News reported. Krolczyk previously worked for Hillary Clinton and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and that should tell us everything we need to know about this individual, but thank goodness they fired her. She should have been. But how many times are these radical leftists just given a free pass? Way too often. So I'm glad that justice was served in this instance. All right, now let's go back. All right. Woman, 86, dies after knocked to ground at New York City hospital for violating coronavirus social distancing. Yeah, a woman, 86 years old. She was knocked to the ground for violating social distancing in a New York City hospital. Yeah. Now, an 86-year-old woman in Brooklyn Hospital died Saturday after being assaulted by another patient for allegedly breaking social distancing guidelines amid the CV outbreak, according to a report. The incident could be New York City's first CV-related homicide, the New York Daily News reported. Autopsy results are pending. Janie Marshall, 86, was involved in an altercation with another patient, a 32-year-old woman, around 2:07 p.m. inside the New York City Health and Hospital Woodhull in Brooklyn. New York Police Department said in hospital's Woodhull in Brooklyn. New York Police Department said in a statement to Fox News. Okay, that doesn't read real smooth, but staff told police that Marshall was pushed to the ground, hit her head on the floor, and lost consciousness briefly. According to the Daily News, Marshall was in the hospital for a bowel obstruction and grabbed onto a metal stand while making her way down the hallway. That's when a woman identified by the newspaper as 32-year-old Cassandra Lundy, a seizure patient in a bed nearby, began complaining Marshall was not following social distancing. Lundy allegedly hit Marshall over the head, knocking her to the ground. She was pronounced dead at 5:40 p.m. Lundy was issued a disorderly conduct summons by hospital police and was released before New York Police Department arrived, the Daily News reported, citing unnamed police sources. She lives in Bedford, Stuyvesant, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, and has 17 prior arrests on charges, including drug possession, trespassing, assault, and strangulation. So this 32-year-old had 17 prior arrests, and she killed this woman. She murdered her, essentially. Now, she probably didn't mean to kill her, but she did. And they just issued her a disorderly conduct summons? Are you kidding me? That was somebody's mother, sister. You know, I mean, well, assuming that she had other siblings. You know, I don't even know what to say to that. I really don't. I think our elderly are being treated worse than the worst of society right now. I don't think they care if they die. Now, not saying everyone, but around here, that attitude is very prevalent and it makes me nauseous. So the statement did not clarify why the hospital staff waited hours to call the New York Police Department. New York City recorded at least 33,768 confirmed cases with 776 deaths from CV by Monday morning, according to Johns Hopkins University. There are only 6 countries with more cases than New York City: United States, Italy, Spain, China, Germany, and France. Cases in New York City made up 56.5% of the cases in New York State. Well, this really had nothing to do with the virus anyway. And I mean, except that this person was mad because she wasn't social distancing. Okay, the lady needed the railing to hang on to walk. And if this woman wasn't happy with that, then she could have moved a whole lot easier than an 86-year-old. But I digress. Things like this make me very, very angry. So, yeah. I hope she has family that can go to bat for her. That's what I hope. Okay, now, yeah, let's look at this. Now, this is something that'll make you probably angry. It did me. Sweden Health Board says elderly can be given lower priority, but not illegal migrants. So in Sweden, if you have lived your whole life there and worked there and raised your family there and paid into the system, you have less priority if you become sick than an illegal, not legal, an illegal migrant. How do you feel about that? Well, that's just every day here in Canada. I mean, the resources go to the younger. And if there's enough resources for the older, then they'll get some. But if not, then it's the way it is. And it's not right. Sweden's National Board of Health and Welfare has created guidelines for the priority of care for Chinese CV patients that could see elderly Swedish citizens left to die in favor of illegal immigrants. Sweden's elderly, along with Swedes with pre-existing health conditions, can be given lower priority than healthy young illegal migrants. According to the new guidelines, Dr. Thomas Linden of the National Board of Health and Welfare said that the health professionals should prioritize based on medical needs and not on the basis of citizenship, according to this person whose name I can't pronounce. The principles of prioritization say that we should prioritize on the basis of medical needs and that all people have equal value. It means for someone who works in the healthcare industry that it is the people you have ahead of you then you should not think about legal status, citizenship, or so. But it is the medical need that should govern, he said. Another question is what the regions do with people who may not have residence permits, such as paperless and others. It's important partly for them to receive care, but also for the protection of the infection to work, both for those individuals and for society at large. It can be important that they receive the care to stop the spread of infection. And I understand that, Lyndon added. I mean, Lyndon didn't add that. I added. I can understand that. Prior reports had claimed that the Swedish government had begun detailing plans for a triage system in the event that emergency beds and intensive care units become overwhelmed by coronavirus patients. The report came after former infection prevention physician Stefan Sylvan stated that the country's medical system was completely unprepared in the event of a major viral outbreak. At present, our hospitals already have major problems in receiving and caring for urgently ill patients. Why this disinformation about our readiness? He said late last month. Well, I think that so some Swedish authorities, I was getting, what do you call that? Distracted. Telling you, I'm just not on my game today. I don't know what is wrong with me. It took me forever to get this together. And, well, I'm still not together. All right. So some Swedish authorities have previously prioritized migrants over vulnerable Swedish groups, including in 2016 when various disability and dementia groups were evicted from a building in order to convert it to homes for asylum seekers. Now, you can always tell a society the health, I mean mental health, spiritual health, emotional health of any society by how it treats its weakest members. Who are its weakest members? The unborn and the elderly, or the very, very young. And, well, the U.S. isn't doing well on either of those, and neither is Canada, and obviously not Sweden either. So, let's go on here. I think we've had enough of that. Okay. And, talk about just, these people are pure evil. Pure evil. Let's look at this. Well, here we go. Things that make you go, huh? UK Labour MP slammed for plan to bring in migrants during lockdown. Think about that. Why would somebody want to bring in migrants during a lockdown? Not allowing other people in, but the migrants, the illegals, they're welcome. Oh, certainly. And you know how you heard that Canada has stopped, anyone coming in? Not the illegals. Oh, they're welcome. They're still getting in at the same spot they've always been getting in. It's still going on. They lie. You know why? Because the migrants are part of this whole plan for globalization, one world, a new world order, one world government. It's all part of the plan to destabilize these places. As you know, large influx of migrants from certain countries that don't get along well with any other countries, they destabilize a nation, and that's what's happening. Anyway, Luke Pollard, the MP for Plymouth, Sutton and Devonport in southwest England, argued that the government should recruit 70,000 food pickers from EU countries during the lockdown. Burley pointed out that the British public are terrified of the CV, and that tens of thousands of people migrating back and forth would risk spreading the disease across the continent already struggling to cope. When the Sky News said, "So you do want us to relax our borders to allow these people in?" Luke Pollard did not deny supporting a more liberal immigration policy. The Labour politician argued that UK is already experiencing a shortage of cheap farm workers because of Brexit, it's worth remembering that Pollard had consistently opposed Brexit despite the fact that Plymouth, the naval port city he represented in Parliament, voted 59.9 in favor of leaving the EU in the 2016 referendum, and the Brexit party came out on top in the 2019 European elections. Meanwhile, a Change.org petition to start a World War II style land army has reached nearly 6,000 signatures in the UK. Garden centres have appealed the government's decision to close their non-essential businesses while allowing bike shops to stay open, arguing that people who do their own gardening and allotment work can produce their own food. Why would you leave bike shops open and close gardening stores? What would happen if they put all the really smart people in politics, not just those that were wealthy and those that had pull somewhere? What if they just put smart people in? No, like smart, good people, not smart people like, the really far lefts that are just so out there that, I don't know if they're smart or not because I can never figure out what they're saying. Anyway. All right, well, let's go on. No, really, let's. Oh, yes, and then there's this. Sweden again. Remind me not to move to Sweden. Sweden decides to let coronavirus run its course in country without destroying its economy or future. Well, I guess we should keep an eye on that and see how it goes for them. This is fresh news right off the press. So, well, this morning. It's this morning's news. Why Sweden stands apart from the world in fight against CV. Sweden is taking a different approach in battling the CV pandemic. The country remains open for business and life goes on as usual with few restrictions. The political leaders are placing responsibility on the individual. Sweden has taken a slightly different approach to CV than the rest of the world, allowing life to go on as normal with a few exceptions. Unlike neighboring Denmark, which has restricted meetings to 10 people or less, Swedes are still going out to nightclubs, hanging out with friends, and even enjoying ice cream beneath a giant Thor statue in Mariatorget Square. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right. I just about guarantee it. According to the BBC. Telling you, I'm just off my game today. Off my game. Whatever that game is, I don't know. All right. Where were we? Okay. No one is alone in this crisis, but each person has a heavy responsibility. And while the country has limited gatherings to 50 people, as of Sunday, the government is largely leaving decisions over self-isolation and social distancing up to the citizens. BBC notes that almost half of Stockholm residents are working remotely and that traffic is quieter than usual. Stockholm's public transport company, SL, reports 50% fewer riders on subway and commuter trains last week. Stockholm Business Regions, a state-funded company that supports the city's global business community, estimates that rises to at least 90% in the capital's largest firms, thanks to a tech-savvy workforce and a business culture that has long promoted flexibility and remote working practices. Every company that has the possibility to do this, they are doing it, and it works, says its CEO, Staffman Ingvarsson. His words cut to the heart of the government's strategy here, self-responsibility. Public health authorities and politicians are still hoping to slow down the spread of the virus without the need for draconian measures. From the Worldometer coronavirus website, Sweden has had 4,435 confirmed cases and 180 deaths from the virus. That's not too bad. They saved lives and their economy. Sweden coronavirus approach is very different from the rest of Europe. It'll be interesting to see, if their death rate is any higher, the amount of death per capita is any higher. It'll be very interesting to watch that. Because if it isn't, then we'll know that none of this was really necessary. All right, so let's go back and, oh yes, we have to get to this. The Washington Free Beacon. Woman who ingested fish tank cleaner is prolific donor to Democratic causes. You know, the one that took fish cleaner and blamed Trump because, well, apparently he's responsible for everyone and everything. And, you know, everything that goes wrong in this world is always his fault. Arizona woman who accidentally poisoned her husband donated to pro-science resistance, PAC, among others. The Arizona woman who had said she and her 68-year-old husband ingested a substance used to clean fish tanks after hearing President Donald Trump tout chloroquine as a cure for the CV has given thousands of dollars to Democratic groups and candidates over the last 2 years. The woman's most recent donations in late February were to a Democratic PAC, the 314 Action Fund, that bills itself as the pro-science resistance and has vocally criticized the Trump administration's response to the CV pandemic and held up her case to slam the White House. Yeah, you never hear the rest of the story, do you? No. Although local and national media outlets withheld the couple's names, the Washington Free Beacon established their identities through descriptions in local news reports where the pair were identified by their first names and ages, Gary, 68, and Wanda, 61. The Free Beacon is withholding their identities at Wanda's request. Federal Election Commission record shows that Wanda has donated thousands of dollars to the Democratic electoral groups and candidates over the past 2 years, including Hillary Clinton, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, and Emily's List, a group that aims to elect pro-choice female candidates. Wanda told the Free Beacon that she and her husband were both Democrats, not Trump supporters. They heard about the potential benefits of chloroquine and an anti-malarial drug in news reports. She decided at the spur of the moment to try taking it, but reached for a fish tank cleaner in her pantry that contains chloroquine phosphate, a different and deadly form of the chemical. The Food and Drug Administration issued an emergency authorization for the use of chloroquine to treat coronavirus on Sunday. Yeah, but not the fish cleaner. Yeah, don't take fish tank cleaner. You know, really, like, how does this woman manage to get up and dress herself, feed herself, breathe on her own? Anyway, we weren't big supporters of Trump, but we did see they were using it in China and stuff, Wanda told the Free Beacon, and we just made a horrible, tragic mistake. Yeah, they made the mistake. It wasn't Trump's fault. She said it was stupid and it was horrible and we should never have done it. But it's done now and I've lost my husband and my whole life was my husband. We didn't think it would kill us, she added. We thought if anything it would help us because that's what we've been hearing on the news. Yeah, when did you ever hear on the news to take fish tank cleaner? Yeah, the whole idea was to go to your doctor and get a prescription for it. You nitwit. In her first national news interview, Wanda told NBC News that she took the fish tank cleaner in a tragically botched attempt to follow medical advice that Trump had relayed in a press conference earlier that week. So now Trump's, responsible for all the stupid people? Apparently. We saw Trump on TV, every channel, and all of his buddies, and that this was safe, she said last Monday. Trump kept saying it was basically pretty much a cure. Yeah, he never said anything about fish tank cleaner, did he? I've watched all the press briefings. Never once did Trump ever mention taking fish tank cleaner. During a press briefing on March 19th, the president pointed to medical studies indicating that chloroquine, a medication used, he said hydrochloroquine, by the way, a medication used to treat malaria, may be a game changer in treating the coronavirus. Wanda warned others in the same NBC News interview not to believe anything that the president says. Wanda's most recent contributions to Democratic causes came on February 26th and 28th. They went to the 314 Action Fund. Okay, we've already read this. Why do they have to include it twice? Anyway, yes, in the wake of the incident, media outlets tacitly blamed Trump for the tragedy. The New York Times noted that Chloroquine has been bandied about by President Trump during White House briefings on the coronavirus pandemic as a potential game changer in the treatment of COVID-19. Others, like Axios, ran corrections, noting that the couple had not ingested the chloroquine in its medical form, but rather the form used in aquariums, after initially reporting that the couple had followed the president's faulty medical advice. It's not faulty medical advice. He said that they had been seeing good results with hydrochloroquine. Now, from what I'm seeing everywhere, people are reporting the same thing. The doctors that are using this say people are recovering. And it's already got FDA approval. So it's not like he's suggesting some wild out there drug. He's touting something that has FDA approval that people have been taking for years. I took that back in my 20s when I was doing missionary work. I had to, because I was in areas that had malaria, and I didn't get malaria, so I guess it helped. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, it's ridiculous. And Trump, of course, isn't saying for you to just get a hold of this however you can. He's wanting people to discuss this with their doctor, or he's wanting doctors to prescribe this because it's helping. I don't get why people, I don't know. It's like nobody has listening skills anymore. So she thought that taking fish tank cleaner would be a good thing to take. Yeah. And she gave it to her husband, and it killed him. Wanda told NBC News that her experience was a cautionary tale about taking the president's word at face value. This woman literally, I don't know. Is she able to breathe on her own? I mean, really, because she does not appear that she has all areas of her brain intact. Probably doesn't have two neurons to rub together. Because seriously, she's blaming the president for her taking fish tank cleaner. I made him his favorite lunch. We were just having the best day before this happened. I made him his favorite lunch, grilled steak and asparagus and red potatoes. And we were just having the best Sunday, she said, until I went into the cupboard and broke out the fish tank cleaner and gave it to him and said, look, take this. And he did, and then he died. And it's all President Trump's fault. He told us all to take fish tank cleaner and we're all going to die. I'm sorry. I don't have a lot. That's probably why I'm not teaching, because I just don't have I just get so frustrated with people, like especially people like that who are just trying to cause trouble. Really, there's no way this woman could be that stupid, or really she would need help just to live, to get dressed, to feed herself, to breathe, All right, well, let's look at this. Donald Trump Jr. I look forward to the media follow-up to this story. I mean, they were very fast to blame Trump for this couple dosing themselves with fish tank cleaner that people likely deserve to hear this part too. No. It says new. Court records show the wife who fed her husband fish cleaner, poison, has a history of mental illness. No. Surely not. Paranoia, depression, and had considered divorcing her husband as far back as 2012. Well, she doesn't have to now that she killed him. See how that works? Paranoia, depression, mental illness, fish tank cleaner. Yeah, it's Trump's fault. That's right. Unbelievable. All right, well, let's go back. No. Really? Let's. Okay, and this. No greater threat to Canada than COVID-19, military says, as 24,000 troops activated to help fight it. What are they going to do? Shoot the virus? Run it over with tanks? I don't know. I'm just, saying that they're going to help fight the virus. I just asking what that would look like. Oh, they're probably called for other reasons. No, it's the virus. Definitely. Anyway, during these unprecedented times, those who wear the uniform will be there for Canadians when called upon. Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan said, Canada's military sees no greater threat to Canadians than the CV pandemic and is mobilizing up to 24,000 troops to do whatever is needed. As the toll of COVID-19 climbs unabated across Canada, the forces, stopping all the illegals might have been a good move, but hey, what do I know? Stopping traffic into Canada might have been a good move from places like, China and Italy and France and every other country. On Monday, Defense Minister Harjit Sajjan outlined some of the Canadian Armed Forces plans for the pandemic and the mobilization order for up to 24,000 regular and reserved armed forces members to be ready for domestic needs. This includes 10 immediate reaction units within the Army to respond to local requests for assistance, such as providing humanitarian support, wellness checks, no thank you, and national disaster response. National disaster response. Is this a natural disaster? Is that what they're saying? I would say it's a medical disaster. I wouldn't say it's a natural disaster. There's nothing natural about that virus whatsoever. The Navy is prepared to assist coastal communities. 50 patrols of the Canadian Rangers, Canada's largely Aboriginal reserve force, has been activated to full-time readiness for assistance primarily in the Arctic and northern regions. When Canada needs their armed forces, they are always there, Sajjan said. During these unprecedented times, those who wear the uniform will be there for Canadians when called upon. We will provide local commanders the authority to be flexible in our assistance to ensure that local needs are met quickly. So far, the military has not received any formal requests for assistance, Sajjan said Monday. On Friday, the military said that there had been no request for assistance, suggesting some discussions of the need for military assistance may be underway. The military says the pandemic's threat to the nation is real and significant. And don't get that I'm negative about our men and women in the forces, because I'm not at all. I respect them. I respect American service members. Certainly, it's not them that I'm concerned about. The Canadian Armed Forces does not see any greater threat to ourselves or Canadians than what has been described by health authorities. Department of National Defense spokesman Daniel that's a French name, but I'm not sure how to pronounce it, told National Post on Friday. So it'd be interesting. That is my plastic bottle of water snapping for some reason. Phase 1 of the operation, monitor and planning. Vance activated Phase 2, active monitoring of an evolving pandemic threat with some protective measures on March 2nd. Phase 3, when there is widespread and sustained transmission of the virus in the general population, imminent risk or existence of significant absenteeism was activated on March 13th. Yeah. It was March 13 when the military moved to protect Canadian Armed Forces, CAF, and Department of National Defense personnel from catching or spreading the CV in order to preserve the force. That meant cutting all operations to essential core activities. This put the majority of Canada's soldiers in the unusual position of working from home, like many other Canadians, and its bases and facilities closed to visitors. By March 20th, COVID-19 had been confirmed within military ranks. The CAF said that 3 cases had been diagnosed among its troops, including domestic and abroad placements. Since then, the military has stopped confirming the number of cases in order to ensure both operational and personnel security, although the man, whose name I can't pronounce, said the numbers are reported to the Public Health Agency of Canada and are included within the public health numbers. On March 24th, Vance stopped most individual training and education programs, and cadets were sent home. Other personnel were confined to bases and quarters which had been closed to all but essential personnel. In a letter to all CAF members, Vance said the health of the CAF will be critical in the days and weeks to come, and ended with the motto, "Stay fit to fight." So that's it for that. So it's not just the US Army that has been called up. It is also the Canadian, although we have we're a much smaller nation. We're not smaller size-wise. We're actually bigger size-wise than the United States, but people-wise, we are much, much smaller. All right. Well, let's go back now. Okay. Now, let's look at this, shall we? Well, of course we shall. What else would we do? Okay. Americans abroad must return to U.S. immediately, Pompeo says. Top American diplomat declines to say whether U.S. officials think new Chinese government COVID-19 figures are accurate. Well, I don't believe it. I don't believe they're accurate. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo urged Americans abroad who still wish to return to the United States to do so immediately, saying commercial and government chartered flights could soon cease amid the CV outbreak. We don't know how long commercial flights will operate, Mr. Pompeo said Tuesday, adding it is not a sure thing that flights being chartered by the U.S. government specifically for Americans to return home due to COVID-19 fears will be available in some countries. Donald Trump's top diplomat urged any Americans abroad who want to get back to U.S. soil to contact the American embassy in the country where they currently are to begin making plans immediately to get a flight back to the States. Something else going on here, folks. There really is. And I understand that people that are abroad may want to get back, but on the other hand, there just seems countries, it's not just the States. I mean, Canada's been doing it. Other countries have been doing it. They want their people home, and they keep saying, you need to come back. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but I don't get a good feeling, and I wake up with this feeling in the pit of my stomach. And I know, yes, I trust God. Absolutely. I'm not afraid for myself. I'm really not. Because I feel that if I die, I know where I'm going, and I'm not worried about that. I've lived a very good life. Well, I've lived a difficult life, but I've lived a good life in many ways. So anyway, there's something else up, and everybody feels it. Everybody, my friends, anyone I talk to, my family, even friends from the States. They've said the same thing. There's something else going on. Something doesn't feel right. So, asked if U.S. officials trust new data being shared about CV cases and deaths inside China by that country's government, Mr. Pompeo declined to comment. He said he would leave such assessments to U.S. government experts who have been closely monitoring and evaluating Chinese-produced data for some time. Meanwhile, when asked about the situation in Afghanistan, Mr. Pompeo said that Mr. Pompeo said the Trump administration expect Taliban officials to live up to the terms of a recent peace pact. He is basing that assessment on recent meetings with the group's leader he had in Doha, Qatar. And, okay, I guess that's it. That's it for that. All right, now let's go on. Oh, yes. Yes. This is important. Blackout. TV news is silent on new Biden sex abuse allegations. Now, compare that to Trump with Stormy Daniels, which didn't even happen. Compare it to, anything that Trump, they blow everything out of proportion, whether he's guilty or not. And then you've got Justice Kavanaugh, what they did to him. So I find it very strange, but not really, that they're completely silent on this new Biden sex abuse allegation. It's been nearly a week since former Joe Biden staffer Tara Reade leveled disturbing accusations of sexual misconduct against the Democratic presidential frontrunner, and yet ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNBC, and CNN haven't said a single word about them. While you may think that's only because of the ongoing coverage of the coronavirus pandemic, think again. In that same time period, CNN, MSNBC, and NBC have hosted Biden for a total of 3 interviews, including an hour-long town hall on CNN, and no host asked even a single question about these new charges. Oh, these news stations are just so transparent. Compare that to how those same networks raced to promote misconduct charges against then Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh in 2018. A reminder, Kavanaugh was accused of assaulting Christine Blasey Ford at a high school party in 1982. She talked about the alleged incident publicly for the first time when Kavanaugh's nomination was before the Senate. Kavanaugh completely denied the accusation, but in the 12 days following the first reports of Ford's claims, the ABC, CBS, and NBC morning and evening news shows churned out 305 minutes of coverage. Only a scant amount of that airtime, less than 5 minutes, mentioned that none of the witnesses named by Ford would confirm her story. Besides, the broadcast networks, CNN and MSNBC, dished out uncounted hours of coverage, all based on the premise that Ford was telling the truth and that Kavanaugh was a guilty liar. Two-door Ford. Fast forward to today, Reade says Biden assaulted her while she worked for the then senator as a staffer in the early 1990s, more recently than the charges against Kavanaugh. And when Biden was a senator, not a high school student, Reade only talked about the incident publicly for the first time in a podcast released last Wednesday. Like Kavanaugh, Biden has completely denied the accusation. Here's how the website Vox summarized the charges against Biden in a March 27th article. In an interview with podcast host Katie Halper, which aired Wednesday, Reade said Biden sexually assaulted her, pushing her against a wall and penetrating her with his fingers. When she pulled away, she says he said he thought she liked him. A March 26 update to an earlier article at The Intercept about Reade's futile quest to get help from the lawyers at the Time's Up Legal Defense Fund. They claimed assisting in action against a candidate such as Biden would threaten their nonprofit status, included this. At the time, she told her mother, brother, and a friend who worked in Senator Ted Kennedy's office about the incident. Her mother has since passed away, but both her friend and brother told The Intercept they recalled hearing about it from her at the time. The Intercept also made it clear that Reade, a Bernie Sanders supporter, was conflicted at going public because it might help President Trump. Reade said that she was deeply conflicted about continuing to come forward, given that Biden's opponent in the general election is someone she sees as far worse politically. I don't want to help Trump, but what can I do? She said, all I can do is stand on my truth. Reade has since given an on-camera interview to the Hills Rising online program. Host Crystal Ball, a former host on MSNBC, explained, I thought Tara deserved a full vetting and a fair hearing from a mainstream outlet. Since Reade went public, candidate Biden has given long interviews, including an hour-long CNN town hall on March 27th, where he faced 23 questions, 13 from CNN's Anderson Cooper, 10 others submitted by audience members, 9 minutes on NBC's Meet the Press on March 29th, where he faced 9 questions from moderator Chuck Todd, and nearly a quarter hour on Monday's MSNBC Live with Katie Tour, where he faced an additional 9 questions. Out of the 41 total questions, Biden didn't face a single one about his new accuser. Not exactly the Kavanaugh treatment. Instead, hosts like NBC's Todd invited Biden to trash his GOP opponent's response to the CV outbreak. Do you think there is blood on the president's hands? Update CNN, Brooke Baldwin on Tuesday afternoon gave Biden another 6 minutes of free airtime with no questions about Tara Reade, but invited him 3 times to criticize President Trump. Mr. Vice President, do you think President Trump is responsible for the deaths of Americans? This isn't the first time Biden has faced misconduct allegations. Last year, the ABC, CBS, and NBC evening newscasts gave 26 minutes of coverage to complaints from other women that Biden had touched them inappropriately, though not sexually. But helpfully for the candidate, the coverage faded once Biden officially declared, just 92 seconds that week and nothing since. Writing in the Guardian's this week in Patriarchy column, Arwa Madawi accused liberals of turning a blind eye to Reid's stories. Reid's story may be impossible to verify, but this is the case with the vast majority of sexual assault allegations. It is nearly always a case of he said, she said. You know who has talked publicly about the importance of taking women seriously? Biden. During the Brett Kavanaugh hearings, Biden stood up for Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, noting, for a woman to come forward in the glaring lights of focus nationally, you've got to start off with the presumption that at least the essence of what she's talking about is real. Yeah, but he doesn't afford that to his accuser, does he? No. Given the eagerness with which liberal media have found the time to publicize charges at least as serious as those against Biden, it does seem like a double standard is at play. But then, when isn't it? I mean, that's all we see is double standards, right? All right. Well, time's a ticking here. Let's see. I think this is important. I think this is very important, so we'll get to this. All right. Are 5G biometric systems being covertly installed during the lockdown where you live? Yes, I'm hearing this from all over. And if you happen to know of it being installed anywhere near you, into the schools, into some of these places that are closed, schools and so forth, let us know in the comments below. In recent days, a couple videos have begun circulating on social media with evidence of apparent installations of 5G and or biometric systems while children are home due to the COVID-19 lockdown. We now have the opportunity to confirm or debunk reports of these covert installations at schools everywhere. We need your help with this. See the bottom of the post for what to do. 1 second. First, on March 16th, the YouTube channel Logic Before Authority posted a video detailing a message he received from an apparent member of a local school board. This whistleblower detailed how school districts were intending to covertly install 5G equipment in the schools during the lockdown. Under the direction of the U.S. Department of Energy, the companies being sent in were instructed to act as if they were there to disinfect the schools to stop the spread of the virus. Following the Logic Before Authority video on March 18th, another video began circulating showing a fleet of white work vans behind an unknown school. Although we do not see the name or location of the school, the video clearly shows vans for two companies, Systems Plus, Wisconsin, and North American Mechanical, Inc. Both companies appear to be headquartered in Madison, Wisconsin. While American Medical, Inc. focuses on plumbing and mechanical services, System Plus, Wisconsin, clearly states they install biometric systems. The person filming the video called the school to ask whether the vans were involved with anything related to 5G. The person on the other end of the line then immediately hung up the phone. Yeah, I'm hearing this a lot. So it says, now we need your help in gathering more evidence. Most of us have been asking to stay home from work, and our children have been indefinitely sent home from school. This absence from the daily grind has provided us with the opportunity to question the narratives that are unfolding around us. Take a walk or drive to your local school to see if you notice anything unusual, such as work vans or telecom companies on site. If so, call the school and politely ask for more details. Please be courteous but firm. If it's the case that the U.S. Department of Education or other states, federal, or local agencies are indeed working with the telecoms to covertly install 5G and other biometric systems in schools, parents deserve to know. So, yeah, let me know in the comments if you have noticed anything with your local school, if you have kids in school, take a drive by, see what's happening. I'd like to know because more and more of these videos are coming out. So what are they up to and why? All right, now let's go back. We're running out of time here. Now, Chuck Grassley, we are learning FBI flubs on Carter Page spying case are just the tip of the iceberg. IG audited 29 other spying applications on Americans and found problems with every one of them. Constitutional rights are at stake when FBI fails to justify use of spying tools. Reforms needed to protect civil liberties. Oh, yes. And this, which I witnessed at tonight's briefing, Matt Couch says, Trump and Acosta just had a 5-minute cordial question and answer, and I'm thinking hell is about to freeze over. Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, what's happening? What universe am I in? Because Jim was being very, very cordial, and President Trump was being very, very cordial back. So I don't know if the two had a little come to Jesus meeting or what. I don't know, but just seemed really odd to me. Okay, we're going to have to leave this because it's long for another night again, but it'll be there. It's not going anywhere. All right, and I wanted to show you this because it's just weird and a little nauseating, and I think I threw up a little in my mouth when I first saw it, but, you know, I'm just warning you. I'm warning you. All right, this is, Governor Cuomo, and look at his T-shirt there. I mean, what's happening with the nips? You know, the nips are looking like they got a little bit of a hardware there. You know, those aren't normal nips. Just saying. So, yeah, he's got his nips pierced. He sure does. And look, you can see he's got both nips pierced. Why? Wouldn't that hurt? You know, of all the things I've ever considered in my life, piercing the nips isn't one of them. No. Anyway, I just had to show you that. I'm sorry if I caused any of you any, to regurgitate anything. All right, and Ralph Northam closed all churches and made it illegal to attend service in Virginia. It's now punishable by up to 12 months in prison and or a $2,500 fine. Do you know what's not closed? Planned Parenthoods in Virginia, not to mention liquor stores. These are Democrat priorities. Absolutely they are. Now, okay, you know what? I think we're getting to the point where I probably need to, I'm going to leave those two things, but look at this. Socialist Rashida Tlaib's plan to defeat the Chinese virus. Find every illegal alien. 2, hand them a debit card with $2,000. 3, reload it with $1,000 monthly. And 4, ask the American taxpayers to pay. If it weren't for Donald Trump and Senate GOP, the left would have passed this. That's the truth. And this, we know a lot of strange things happening in Hollywood, but here's 2 more. Bill Maher, or is it? It's Maher, isn't it? In real time, reveals real time off indefinitely due to CV fears. John Oliver going dark after Sunday. Lots of people are just leaving their shows, like Ellen and all sorts of people. All right. Well, I think, I think I'm going to leave those 2 until tomorrow, and I'm going to stop there. Thank you guys so much, especially those that contribute in one way or another. Some of you are Patreon subscribers. Some of you donate via coffee every now and then. And some of you pray, and some of you leave comments, and that helps as well because it creates a community environment, and that's what I want. I think we have a very good group here, and so far, we really don't have anyone nasty. We do have a few shills that are starting to show up every now and then, but for the most part, y'all ignore them, and I like that. So anyway, okay, that is it for tonight. I will talk to you tomorrow, hopefully Lord willing, and the creek don't rise, I'm kind of, there's nothing open here, nowhere to go, nothing to do. And I've stocked my parents up now, so I should be here. All right, that's it. And for those of you asking about Xander's still in a lot of pain, still haven't heard from the vet. And I keep calling, I keep messaging, I keep texting. I stop by every now and then. I think I may take a drive out there and see if I can stop by again, because it's very difficult right now because everything's closed down. And I want poor Xander to get the help that he needs because he's in pain, and I hate to see that. But that's it so far. And I took the most adorable video of the cats today. So maybe I will tack that on to tomorrow's video, or maybe I'll just upload it as a separate video all in itself. But they were adorable. They were hugging each other and cleaning each other. All right, I'll stop talking about cats. People think I'm a crazy cat woman. Well, I'm crazy and I'm a cat woman. So I guess if it applies. All right, will you guys stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth. It always leads somewhere good. Good night, guys.